All right, it looks like it looks like the internet is catching up. I'll put on the wizard hat. What did I title this stream? The Friend Zone. I don't know, that just came to me. I wanted to talk about relationships and be silly and talk about that kind of stuff today. I got like a got a dragon on the shirt? Yeah, put on the wizard cap. Or take it off. Either way. Either way is good. So, hope you guys are having a good one. Make sure you're checking out Patreon. There is a serial story that is going live on Patreon. So, yeah. I know I just came out with a thing that's like I'm taking a step back from independent publishing. But if you're on the Patreon or the Substack, there's still going to be stuff that's on that. Any kind of live rights I do, any new stuff I come out with, that'll be available there for patrons. And then I'll still probably come out with other things here or there. I might like crowdfund the book that I wrote live this year. I haven't put it out on regular channels, so that needs to happen. I'll probably come out with a physical edition at some point, or I don't know what I'll do with it. I don't know what I do with the book. It's a cool book, so for people who like classic fantasy, Jack Vance style stuff, that's what you get. All right. The Friend Zone. What's the Friend Zone? What are we talking about with the Friend Zone? Okay. So I wanted to preface this a little bit. With just some talk about some thoughts about the way that people are experiencing stories now. So, as an author of books, and you can buy my books. In fact, let me link one. You should buy this book, King Leper. So, if you haven't bought King Leper yet, here's the Amazon edition of it. You can go ahead and grab it, and it's down there in the chat right now. As a person who writes books, the tendency whenever you do something is to focus on the thing that you do and not always think about all the things everybody else is doing. So as a writer of books, I tend to focus on the way that stories exist in books more than almost anything else. I write short stories as well, but that's kind of the same format. I'm talking like regular narrative fiction where we're formally creating a product that has a beginning, middle, end, characters, dialogue, the way that you experience a story or you experience a book. But I think people experience stories in some new and different ways now that I have put some thought into. I know this is called the Friend Zone. Don't we all want to be friends? Don't you guys want to be my friend? But I'll talk about this because I think it's important to think about. I think the way that people experience stories now are through different kinds of social media apps. And I think a big one is Reddit. I think Reddit is mostly fiction, just kind of like how 4chan was mostly fiction. And people post on Reddit as a way to like get Reddit karma for whatever reason. I don't know why they want that, but they'll do that. So they'll come up with a fictional relationship story and they'll post it on some of these forums, some of these subreddits that people will post their relationship problems on. So a big one is like the Am I the Asshole forum, or the Am I the Asshole Reddit, which is usually people asking like, am I a jerk for doing a completely reasonable thing? And very rarely you have someone that's like, I legitimately don't know if what I did was was bad or good. You know, so it's a, I'll get to the chat in a minute. Okay, so I'm not going to read the chat for a while I do this spiel. Chat, hold on. Yeah, you guys made me lose my train of thought. Let me start this over again because I totally forgot what I was thinking about. Okay, so yes, people will read these Reddit stories and they'll post the thing, basically designing it to get attention. What is the most engaging kind of story that I can tell about my relationship? Because what you want to do to engage a reader when you're like writing a story is you want something that compels them to think or to respond. I've talked about those 3 levels of response to a story. So level 1 would be like a reaction. So think of like a horror movie and a clown pops out and you're like, oh, right? Level 2 is feeling, like you care about the characters doing something. And level 3, the highest level, is thinking, where you're really thinking about the implications of what's going on, what the moral message is, what the theme are. So the immediate stuff in the prose or in, you know, in a visual form, that's like the lowest level, that's reactive. And then the characters and the drama, that's the feeling, that's the emotional. And then the themes, that's the highest order of what you're thinking about. So when these people are writing a Reddit story, what they're trying to do is they're trying to get people to respond. How do you get people to respond? Well, you do that base level. You do these 3 things. You do the base level stuff. Really, my wife did this really bad thing. Am I the asshole for divorcing her? And everyone be like, of course you're not. You're not the asshole for divorcing your wife when she has an orgy with 7 people out of the blue. That's crazy, right? Now it's fake. It's fake. And you know it's fake because people don't really act like this, right? And you wouldn't feel like you were not sure about divorcing somebody who would do something horrible. But anyway, that's the base level. And then above that, you have like a caring thing. It's like, I had cancer. And when I had cancer, my wife cheated on me. And it's like, okay, then you're really caring about, oh, it's so bad that you've got this betrayal. But, you know, maybe the wife was feeling so like burned out from caring for your cancer treatment, or, you know, something like that, to thinking where it's like, I'm really thinking about whether there's like a moral conflict there. So really good story writers exist on Reddit. There's a whole range of bad to good. And one of the things that I think about these Reddit subreddits, besides the fact that they could be entertaining, is that this is a way that people engage with stories. Now, a lot of the people are not aware that it's fiction, and there's ways that you can detect it's fiction. Basically, if it's really strongly hitting this pyramid that I'm talking about, and it's hitting these levels, it's probably fiction, because real life doesn't work that way. Real life is a lot messier. Real life is a lot more, there's just a lot more to it. So, and generally, the better written it is, the more it's probably going to be an AI that actually wrote it. Like somebody prompted an AI to write an Am I the Asshole Reddit story about a cheating spouse or a cheating girlfriend, or finding out that your kid is not yours, right? There's the reason that like the viral stories are always these really fictional, like probably fictional ideas, because almost always if somebody's asking for relationship advice on one of these, it's like, I'm gonna steal this from Stefan Molyneux, because he threw this out there one time and it was such a perfect analogy. It's like, he's like, you're asking me, how do I do this? And it's like asking me, I'm at the beginning of the Boston Marathon in a suit of armor. What do I do? And it's like, we've missed so many steps. How did you arrive at the Boston Marathon in a suit of armor? This is crazy. How did you get in this situation? So trying to repair a situation that's like 100 steps deep and you've done weird things for 100 steps is really like almost impossible. But anyway, the point is, that's a way that people are engaging with stories now. They're engaging with stories in a way that we wouldn't normally think of it. It's like, this is not a packaged piece of fiction. The person's not getting paid for it except in like Reddit karma or something, or getting upvoted on Reddit, or just the satisfaction of having something go viral. There's whole content bots. So there's all these content bots that just steal the stories off of Reddit and repost them on Facebook, repost them on Twitter. It's a whole genre of content now, is to just steal something off of Reddit, screenshot it, put it on Twitter or whatever, X or whatever, put it on Facebook. And then Facebook, it's really clever because I've noticed the way that they do this. So you have a bot that'll do this. It's all automated. They take a screenshot of the Reddit thing. They put the screenshot of the first half of the story in the Facebook feed. You have to click below the fold and click a link to a page filled with ads. And so they're just farming out ad revenue by stealing stories. Now, it's theft, right? It's content theft. It's all the things that we talk about being bad about. If you were to take my book and put it on a website and collect ad revenue from it, you're stealing from me. People should be buying that book from me or buying it on Amazon or reading it on my website. You're stealing my work, right? They're just doing that. But because it's Reddit, it's just people don't feel like there's any kind of barrier to just stealing that stuff or like reading it on a video. And I've thought about, hey, let's go look at some Reddit stories and we can react to them. And that might be like a technically legal form of content, but it's also like basically theft. I'm just reading someone else's story and responding to it. I'm not really creating anything new or interesting. But that's one of the ways that people get these stories, or they're responding on social media. Social media is so fake. The people that are on social media are fake. The people on Instagram that are fake. The Instagram stories are fake. You have guys that are like, look at me and I'm surrounded by these hot girls in Cancun. And it's like they're prostitutes that he paid to be there. And he took out a loan to pay them to like pretend to do this because he's trying to build up a social media following, which he's going to monetize by selling something on Gumroad. It's all fake. It's so fake. When you're aware of it and you're smart enough to see that, you can shut that stuff off. But for whatever reason, people on Reddit, their first reaction to most stories is not like, this is probably fiction because it's hitting too hard. It's too well written. It's hitting too many of these things. Even if a real person wrote it, they were writing it and including things that they knew people would get a response to. So if you were going to write like a Reddit story, it's like, am I the asshole for emptying my bank account after I found out my kid is not mine? So there's your prompt. Boom. You have the clickbait title. Oh man, I got to read this about this guy who like punished his wife. What do we have? We have a conflict, right? The conflict is an injustice that has to be fixed. The injustice being, my child is not mine. My wife had an affair and produced a child, and I've been caring for and loving that child, and it's a huge spiritual attack on me to have done that. So is my response appropriate? My response of emptying my bank account and taking away all the money and leaving her destitute with this affair child, right? It's like we want justice to be served, so we want him to do something crazy like that, like just throw her out of the house, like her and the baby have to go live at their mom's in a trailer, and isn't that bad? And we're like, well, what about, is it bad for the kid? Don't you feel bad for the kid? And so that's also going to get those responses for people in Redditville where they're like, don't you have a heart for this poor innocent child who didn't choose to be a victim of the whatever? And it's like, then you have a great response to that, which is that child should be with his father. His father deserves to know that he has a child. His father should be taking responsibility for that child. And as long as he's living with me, that's not going to happen. So I'm making sure that the mom gives that child the real father that's supposed to be there. So you could come up with these prompts. We could come up with dozens of other prompts as well that would probably hit pretty hard. But my big point is, this is the way that people really experience a lot of stories, whether they're real or they're fictional. And I think a lot of them are fictional. Now, the ones that I think aren't fictional for like relationship advice, like the relationship advice subreddit, is people that are going to express a common thing, but it's not going to hit these levels in the same way. It's like, should I cut off my friend? Like I read one the other day and the guy was like, should I cut this friend off? It's like, I asked her out twice and she shot me down both times. I'm like, okay, but we're still friends, I guess. And so we continued on. She got really drunk and she confessed to me that she's fallen in love with me and all these things. Then she called me up the next day and said that was all bullshit and she didn't mean any of that. It's like, what should I do? And it's like, this is an experience that has happened in some variant to a huge number of the men that I've known and a big portion of the women as well. Usually it's not, women don't have this experience because they're not the ones asking men out and getting rejected, right? They're not the ones in the friend zone. If they're already in a friend zone from some other thing, like I met this guy, I became friends with him, he has a girlfriend, but I fell in love with him, That's more how it might work for women. Versus men, it's like, I meet her, she doesn't want to date me, but we're still in the same social circle, so we kind of stay friends, we become closer friends, and then, you know, I get stuck in this place where my feelings don't go away or they intensify. What do I do? And so that's a really common experience. So you can write that story where it hits there. That one that I mentioned has a conflict. It has a climax. It has kind of a denouement, like a secondary conflict that we have to resolve. And you ask you, the Reddit reader, how do I resolve this problem? And it compels you as a reader to react in more ways than just a novel where you sit and think about what you might do with the character or where you think this mystery story might be going or things like that, and to actually take that step and respond. So I guess I'm saying in a weird way that like the subreddit might be the fiction of the future. We just aren't aware of it yet. That's the way that you're really going to hook readers, is to write in the Am I the Asshole subreddit, or like the relationship advice subreddit. Just write fiction and see how hard it hits and see how much reaction you can get out of that while keeping it grounded. Because like I said, if you hit those levels too quick, people are smart. People aren't, even though we make fun of Redditors, they're not stupid. They're going to be like, this seems a little fake. This seems like there's a little too many things lining up. This feels like a Hollywood movie in a bad way, like a bad plot from a rom-com. So can we skip that and maybe just have something that's real? Downvote, right? So you have to kind of tread that line when you're writing fiction on Reddit. But it gets that person to respond, and they'd be like, yeah, you should cut this person out of your life, or no, you should just learn to not feel the way that you feel about them, which is impossible for most people when you think about it, right? Things like that. So anyway, that made me think about, like, that's why this stream is titled The Friend Zone, about some of these relationship advice threads that you get and some of the things that I think about with the way people experience stories. So the format for this really goes way back. If you think about Dear Abby, you guys, I don't know if anybody watching is old enough to have read newspapers when they were there. Anyway, they were these really cheap things. They were made of paper. You flipped them open. They were really big, and they'd have these little narrow stories written in them. News stories. News stories are still stories. And you would get advice columns, right? Advice columns are really funny because they're a story. This is the story of my life. How do you respond to it? And the person giving the advice will respond to it. And it kind of invites the reader to passively think, well, here's what I would have said. Dear Abby's clever, but here's what I would have said. But Reddit, it skips that whole, like, it's what would you say? Type it in, put it in the comments. Tell me what you would think. And I get to do that with YouTube too, by the way. I get to tell a story and be like, hey guys, tell me what you think down in the comments. So you're experiencing stories when I tell a story, you know, it's like, I went camping and did this, and what would you guys have done if this happened to you? Right. So this is the way that people experience stories now. It's much more interactive than it used to be. So yeah, if we think about the relationship advice subreddit, so the friend zone, let's talk about the friend zone. Let's transition. We talked about the stories. Let's talk about the friend zone, because everybody has experienced this. And I think it's a big problem for Gen Z, but it goes way back. So I did this video a while back, and it's got basically Jerry Seinfeld not knowing whether he's in the friend zone or not. He's confused as to what his relationship with this woman who is going to come stay in New York. What's the relationship? Is she interested in me? She wants to stay with me all of a sudden. Does she want to stay with me, sleep with me? Or how do we define our relationship? So it's nothing new, and it probably predates the baby boomers, but the baby boomers are probably the first big generation that had a lot of confusion about formal relationships between people. And if we compare that to, and this is a piece of fiction, but it still is going to exemplify a little bit of some of the mentalities of the past. If you look at Bram Stoker's Dracula by Bram Stoker, not the Bram Stoker's Dracula movie by Francis Ford Coppola. Anyway, you read the book and you find that, I think Mina gets like three proposals on the same day and rejects two of them, I think, two or three of them. And the guys in there not only are still care about her and are friends with her, but are friends with each other because they're all part of the social circle and are able to just close that door and not have not because they're moral people, are not afflicted by jealousy in a way that stops them from caring about each other and other people in an important way. Like they can move into the friend zone and it's not a bad thing because they're honorable people. Whereas now the friend zone is this thing that it's like, no, I'm being put in a place that I don't want to be, and it's not fun for me to be there, and I can't handle it. And in fact, I feel that the relationship ends up being predatory. So the reason men don't like the friend zone, besides the fact that it's like you develop feelings for a person and then you can't matriculate that relationship. You can't have what you want from that person. It's more than that, because the friendships tend to demand something of people. And so what men end up with in the friend zone, the reason they don't like the friend zone, for any female that might be watching, is they're basically committing resources to a woman. They're giving her time and attention and even maybe helping her with things the way that they would help one of their brothers, right? Without getting anything in return, right? They're aware that it's like a one-sided thing as far as transactions. And we've moved into a place culturally where most of our relationships are transactional. Okay, so we have transactions that are going on, where I'm doing this for you. Are you doing this for me? And the reality is that women, at least like outside of, say, domestic relationships, don't really do anything for men. And maybe that's sexist to say, but it's pretty true. Women just generally don't provide kind of transactional value to men outside of domestic relationships. That is to say, your wife does things for you that are really important, besides just give you children, but, splitting domestic tasks and that kind of stuff. If you're just friends with a woman, what do you get out of that? Well, you can't be fully intimate with a woman because there's certain things that are reserved in the male space. In terms of helping her move, like she's like, I got to move. Can you help her? Can you help me? Yeah, I guess I can, but I wouldn't ask you to help me move because you can't help me. Like you can't lift anything heavy. So I have to still ask my male friends to help me with that. Is there something that do I need some help baking a cake? Maybe it doesn't usually work out because men don't care about that same stuff. So men usually end up feeling taken advantage of. There was a Dave Chappelle sketch about this, where like the woman like loses her breasts and all of her friends don't care about her and don't want to help her out with anything. It's like, what happened? It's like, oh, this guy, I thought I had this great friendship with this guy. It's like, turns out he was only interested in you sexually and was just kind of orbiting, hoping that to like come into orbit and like swoop in and somehow transition from friend to like in a relationship. And that never works out. I wouldn't say it never works out, but it generally doesn't work out. Like I was friends with my wife for a long time before we started dating, but there was definitely like a big, first of all, we were in separate relationships, so we weren't going to be together. Right. And then when that wasn't the case, and then we had feelings for each other, then that began. It wasn't like, oh, I still want to just be friends with you, even though you said you want to be more than that. Like that never happened. So anyway, just one of those things. So very rarely does a man move out of the friend zone. And in fact, women will use men in the friend zone to get all kinds of different things, including emotional validation. So one of the things I noticed when I was, I guess, in university was what I call surrogate husband syndrome. This is kind of like the friend zone, but like you're not wanting to really romantically pursue her, but she's, a woman will pick a man and basically do and ask for all of the emotional validation that she ought to be getting from her boyfriend or husband, and she's not getting it from him for some reason. So it's like, look at my family albums. I remember doing this with like a friend of mine once, and like she's telling me all this stuff about her family, and I have to stop and be like, this seems more emotionally intimate than is appropriate for a casual friendship. This seems like the kinds of things that you would tell your husband. Why aren't you talking to him about this? And the reason was, I think because he wasn't interested. He just didn't give a shit about her. So she's like, well, I want to share this with someone. I want to feel these things, and I need it from a man because the male validation is different from the female validation, right? Women just seek that out differently. And so it's like, hey, you could be my surrogate husband. And men just get annoyed by that if they're on top of it. Or on the flip side, as they end up developing feelings for the person, they're like, oh, well, this person shared all this emotional intimacy with me, and now I'm starting to feel like I'm entering into a relationship with them. And then they're like, well, I don't like you that way. It's like, then why did you act like I was your boyfriend? It's like, because she needed emotional validation that she wasn't getting from her boyfriend. Well, why doesn't she dump her boyfriend? Because the sex is really good, or he's got something else going on for her, right? So women will just rope in other men to fulfill their needs. If their boyfriend won't help them move, they rope in their friends to help them move, and men don't really do this with women because, like I said, the main thing men want from women is sex. So they're not roping in extra women for like extra sex unless they're like a 10 out of 10 kind of guy, right? If they're a 10, they can do that. They can like have a harem of women, but most men are just not able to do that. So they don't do that. And so anyway, how do you avoid the friend zone? Well, you just have to be very formal with your boundaries. You have to have firm boundaries. And that's the problem that I think goes back to the baby boomers in that episode of Seinfeld. It's like nobody had any idea of what a firm boundary is supposed to be. And if we look at those relationship advice subreddits, a lot of people have problems because they just don't have boundaries. They've never established like, this is my boundary for what I'm willing to do for you or with you or to you, and what I'm going to allow you to do as well. And it's like, am I the asshole for breaking up with this girl because she had an OnlyFans? It's like, no, that's a boundary. My boundary is I don't want to be with someone who has an OnlyFans. That's perfectly valid. That's a perfectly valid boundary to have. I don't want to be with someone who has an OnlyFans. Or you're insecure. It's like, it doesn't matter what word you throw at me. I'm not going to suddenly be okay with it because you name call me, right? I have a boundary. That boundary is physical intimacy, including nudity, is reserved for the romantic relationship and nothing else. That's a totally an appropriate boundary to have. But people are unable to articulate this because they don't enter into relationships with boundaries. Rather, they kind of fall into relationships now. They kind of casually fall into a situationship that they hope develops into something formal. People fall through these various levels of formality till they reach a settling point where everybody's comfortable. It's like you read these relationship advice forums and they're like, I've been friends with, we've been dating for 7 years and he hasn't popped the question. Honey, he doesn't want to marry you. Why doesn't he want to marry you? I don't know. I don't know why he doesn't want to marry you. Well, why is he still living with me? Because it's easy access to sex or domestic, he gets his laundry done and he gets to have sex from time to time, and it's less effort than it would be to try to break up with you and find someone he really wants to be with for the rest of his life. Sorry, he doesn't want to marry you. That's why I like the 18-month rule. Ladies, if a guy does not propose after 18 months, maybe you can give it 24 or maybe even a little longer if you're really young. But like if you're an adult, 18 months and it's not going anywhere, it's not going anywhere. The man has found the point where he's comfortable. He's comfortable being in that relationship. It's like, how do I get out of this situationship? You just have a firm boundary. You are with me exclusively or we're not together. That's it. That's how you avoid the situationship. It's you just don't sleep with someone unless there's already a commitment. No ring. Put a ring on it. It's not that hard to avoid situationships, but women fall into it all the time because they're like, I can't just say no or I'll lose this person I desire. You have to be comfortable losing the person you desire. That's the same thing with the friend zone. I can't just not be friends with her or I'll lose all chance of being with her. You don't have any chance of being with her. And in fact, she will never respect you enough to be with you if you don't have a boundary. If you don't have a boundary that's like, we're not going to be friends because I have feelings for you, that's just not fair to me. Oh, well, I was hoping we would be friends. We're not, but there's no shortage of men, I'm sure, who will orbit you. There's no shortage of beta orbiters who will swing around you and give you whatever emotional validation, kind of hoping to get into your pants one day when you're drunk or you're feeling particularly depressed. These are, women don't want those kind of men around. They keep, I think some women keep them around because it feels good to have people desire you, but they don't really want to be with them or they'd be with them, right? And you have to be like, oh, she doesn't really want to be with me. She doesn't want to be with you. Just accept it, move on. Maybe ask a question like, what you can be like really direct with women. Like, why don't you want to be with me? Just so that I know what's there. And it could be like, well, you don't have a good enough job. Some women are really honest and they're like, I really need someone who's got like financial security, which means that you don't make enough money. Or it could be something that's like, I'm just not attracted to you. And a man should respond to that by going, okay, let me look at my physical attractiveness. How much do I deviate from the conventionally attractive man? And to the degree that I deviate from it, what can I fix? biggest one would be body fat. If your body fat is too high, if a woman says, I'm just not into you, then you could be fat and you should go on a diet, and probably going on a diet might solve that. And this is one of those things, like, I got rejected, then I got in shape, then she wanted to be with me. What do? I don't know. That's a question for you, right? You have to just, because if you get fat again, maybe she'll dump you. But clearly there was a standard, and then you met that standard. And when you met that standard, you could have her, but maybe you don't want that because you're always going to doubt it. You're always going to have the self-doubt of like, maybe I just was never really good enough for her, and I want somebody I feel more secure with. Then that's okay. Don't do that relationship. Say like, hey, it's really great that you know that, but I'm never going to feel secure in our relationship because it began with rejection, or you weren't interested in me before. And so I'm always going to doubt that it's authentic, things like that. But women do warm up. They warm up to men over time, which is why if you get to know a woman a little bit, then ask her out, you have a much better chance of that working if you have established some familiarity rather than like cold approaches, or like, I met a girl on Tuesday, I asked her out and she shot me down. It's like, of course she did. She doesn't know you, right? There's zero security there. There's zero familiarity. You're like a 2 to her because you're probably frightening. It's probably frightening to have that happen. No one ever thinks about how women feel or react to that kind of thing. It's like, women don't actually want you to cry. Well, women want you to be emotionally continent. So if you break down in hysterics, they actually will feel unsafe. So you read stories about this. I cried and then my girlfriend broke up with me. Yeah. Hard lesson to learn, man. That's a really hard lesson to learn, but you should not like become emotionally incontinent, or she'll get scared. She'll feel like, I can't trust you to be safe. So yeah, you have to maintain control over yourself and express your emotions without losing physical control over your like body. You have to be continent. You can't be emotionally incontinent. All right. Let's check out the chat for the day after that spiel. Saw your video. John Della Rose made a similar video. I really picked a bad time to publish my book. I guess I sat on my book for too long. Oh, well, I sent you an email on it too about the cover. So I made a video. I actually recorded that video months ago, and I only released it today. And the reason was I wanted to know if my feelings changed. And the fact is, I didn't think they were going to change, but I just didn't know. Sometimes you have this, right? Like I felt this way last year. Big time. And I remember talking to my brother-in-law with it. I'm like, the best time to quit indie publishing was 2018. The second best time is now, or whenever today is. But I'm like, I have this book. I really want to put this book out, King Leopard. So I'm going to have that be, I'm going to put the book out, and then I'm going to reevaluate my feelings after that about independently publishing books. And that's what I did. And I was like, I haven't done a crowdfund yet, so we'll do the crowdfund. I want to make this product really special for people. So the people who care about my books get a really special product. I drew maps or drawings in every single book that I signed and got to mail those out to people. Like somebody sent me like a fan letter, which was really cool. I've only had like that happen like once or twice. So that was very cool that somebody sent me a letter back. People in that video are focusing on the AI, but the AI is not what it's about. The industry was already really shitty before AI. AI just piled on all the problems that were already there. So the problems that were already there was we have a sclerosis of the genres, where the whole way that you do independent publishing is you pick a micro genre, you write to market really hard, you spend a bunch of money on marketing and doing these various things, and then maybe you get a bestseller, and hopefully Amazon will promote that book as a bestseller for you. There's a whole technique that goes with it. I've explained it in many other videos. It's not that hard to do. It's just expensive. And as I've done this over the years, I've realized I wouldn't say almost everybody, but a huge number of the authors on Amazon are just faking it. They are throwing a shit ton of money into that furnace to pump it up, to try to get that book pumped up, and their cultural impact is zero. It's damn near zero. Because you can't have a cultural impact writing to market in microgenres. You just can't. Because you're just giving people more of what they expect. It's why you're not going to have a technical death metal album have a cultural impact. It can have an impact in the technical death metal area, but probably not. Unless you're not writing technical death metal. Unless the technical death metal is like this small sliver and the rest of it is like orchestra or something. Like Winterson. Winterson had a big impact in the early 2000s because it wasn't death metal. Because it was something that people hadn't heard. It was like death metal, but there was power metal and there was great solos, and you know what I mean? So it had everything going for it, and it still does. Like Yari Minpaw's music is genre defying in so many different ways, and that's what makes it have an impact and what makes it good. But you're not going to have a cultural impact writing military sci-fi, and that's because you're just doing what other people did again. You're just doing it again, and doing it again might serve a reader who just wants to read a lot of the same slop over and over again, but it's not going to penetrate outside that. Very unlikely to. You have to think a little bit bigger for cultural impact. But anyway, it was always bad beforehand. There was way more books than there was market to read them, things like that. The community of indie authors is absolute shit. It's mostly people trying to sell author services. And I've gone over this many times. Everybody seems to forget this, but the way to make money in independent publishing is not to publish books. It is to sell services to authors. The authors are the ones who have the money, and they will give you the money if you can convince them that somehow if they give you money, they can make money. So if you're a cover designer, that's the best one. And I'm not going to say who because it's a private chat, but they said the only people who really came out ahead in independent publishing were the cover artists, the cover designers who do Photoshop stuff for a couple $100 because they got paid a wage for their work. It was work for hire. It was the only one in the sphere who could really consistently do work for hire, not editors. Editors can do work for hire, but it's not very good paying per hour. It's pretty bad per hour when you sit and think about it. It's pretty low overall. So everybody's trying to sell a product, and the cover designers are the ones who come out on top. The other ones are like, I'm a marketing professional. Take my AdWords for Authors course. Take my course in how to write stories to market. Take my course in this bullshit and that bullshit. Just take all of these courses, right? So that's the big thing, and it's just awful. And when you get to a certain point, you realize everybody's really phoning it in. It's fake. If you want to get in that stream, more power to you. If that's what excites you, it doesn't excite me anymore. And in fact, the only reason I ended up as an independently published author is that the books, at least the main book that I wanted to publish initially, was just not fit for mainstream publishing. It was a samurai novel. There's no genre for that. No one was going to take a chance on that book, especially written by a white man. It wasn't going to happen. So my only option was to independently publish it. It was my only option was for Muramasa was to independently publish it. I had no option. So I had to learn how to do all that stuff because I wanted this product to exist, because I cared about the product, not because I was writing for a niche microgenre. I wasn't doing that. I've never given a shit about that. Okay. I want to write cool shit. I don't want to write genre slop. And so the AI is just more on top of that. It's just a cavalcade of worse books. Even somehow indie fiction had a terrible reputation. And somehow AI is making it even worse. It's like maybe AI will write good books. No, they're somehow even worse than the crap people were already putting out. So people focused on the AI thing because that's what's hot right now, but it really has very little to do with the AI. The AI is just sort of the cherry on top of the shit sandwich. And I don't want to eat that cherry. I don't want to be part of that. I don't want to be a prompter. But yeah, that's it. Indie authors have, for the entire time I've been in this industry, been obsessed with how to not write books. They're like, oh, I know what I can do is once I get successful enough, then I can co-write the books. In other words, hire ghostwriters. I write the outline. I pay the ghostwriter to write the book. I'm like, you're not writing anymore. You're not a writer. It's like the goal of the indie author and the authorpreneur is to not write books. So AI allows you to do that. It allows you to just not write the books anymore. Great. It'd be like, my goal as a guitarist is to not play guitar anymore. My goal is to hire other guitarists to write and compose music that sounds like some words that I tell them to. It's like, you're not a guitarist. You're not playing guitar. You're not doing the thing. If you are a writer, you have to write the words. You have to do the thing to be the thing. You're not a chef when you go to McDonald's and order a hamburger. You're not a chef when you go to a restaurant and order the food. Okay? So when people are like, AI is a tool, like AI is a tool in the way that a chef is a tool for getting food onto your plate. You're not a cook. You're not cooking the food. Right? A tool is like a pot or a pan. A pot and a pan are tools. A chef is not a tool. And if you hire a robot to cook the food for you, that's a tool in a way, but you're not cooking at that point. The robot is making the food for you. So you're just eating robot food. It's like having a replicator make, tea Earl Grey hot. No one's brewing the tea. No one harvested the tea leaves. No one selected the leaves. No one steeped it in a way that they thought was good. There's no human touch. It's just a replicator, right? Did you make the tea or did the replicator make the tea? Well, the replicator made the tea, obviously. So if you have a robot chef in your kitchen, you're not cooking. The robot's cooking. If you prompt an AI to make you an image or write you a book, you're not an artist or a writer. You're a prompter. You just asked a robot to do something. And what I love about prompters is they imagine they have some sort of magical language for interacting with the robot. The whole point of the robot is that it uses English. So if you're unable to get what you want out of the robot, it's either because the robot has a limitation, or the robot's bad, or you're not good at English. You're not good at asking for things with robots. It's so easy. AI is such like an easy thing to do. Unless you are trying to do, I guess, really higher level stuff where you're using like 8 different AIs to try to construct a movie scene and then editing it. Like, you have to have a really high skill level to do that because the AI is not good. The AI is not good enough to just make you a movie. So you have to already be a master filmmaker to like use the AIs to make like a little short film or something like that. That's a whole nother discussion about AI. And I've gone over before, like AI could be a good tool in the hands of a master. But the problem is masters aren't the ones using it. Masters don't want to use it. If you're a master writer, why would you want the robot to write your book for you? That's retarded. That's the dumbest, like it's pathetic. It's stupid. Like, why would you do that? Well, because I actually don't like writing books. I hate writing. I've only did this for clout. I only did it so people would respect me because I have no self-respect and there's no one in my life that likes me or whatever it is. Truth is, so many authors get into this business for self-validation. And I know I'm using harsh words here, but it's like, I feel for you. If we all want to feel special. We want to be special snowflakes in this shitstorm. And it's like, to be a special snowflake as a writer, to be really good requires a lot of effort and a lot of iteration and a lot of difficult trying and doing and doing and doing. Same thing with music, right? I'm one of the rare people. I've never met anyone who's able to operate at a really high level in 2 different disciplines, except for Jesse White, whose art is behind me, right? So Jesse is a fantastic singer, amazing singer, great musician. And he's like a top tier artist, right? I can't think of anybody else. I think his like handle was like polymath or something. And it's like, dude, he is a polymath. I don't want to toot my own horn. I don't know too many other people that are able to be at a really high level in multiple disciplines. Right? Like, as a guitar player, I don't know if I'm as good as I ever was, but I'm pretty good now. I've been working pretty hard on it. I've got some cool original stuff coming down the pipeline that I think you guys will like. If you're into, if you're into classical guitar, but you want it to be just something more, you want something more from classical guitar, I'm going to give you more. I'm going to give you something special. And I have like, my mind is full of so many ideas. I have so much material I've been working up. It's going to be great. Right. I'm not sure where I was going with that, but basically, like, I don't know anyone that operates at a high level that doesn't want to do that, right? The whole point of practicing hours and hours on your guitar is to be a great guitar player, to express yourself with this instrument, your body making the noise, right? I don't want to farm that out to a robot to be like, play me something that sounds like Dust in the Wind meets blah, and you hear it. And for an amateurs like that because they're like, oh, I stuck two like basic level things together and something came out that was kind of pleasant to hear. Amazing. But for high level musicians, it like the AI music sounds like shit. And it's not that it just sounds like pop garbage. It sounds like genre slop. So the AI music, it's the same thing with the AI writing. It's just a continuation of the shit we already had, right? Like the indie fiction market, and to be honest, like the traditional publishing market as well, is full of garbage. Indie fiction is worse because there's less quality control. That's it. There's just as much woke bullshit in the indie fiction market. The difference is you can publish things that aren't woke, whereas in the traditional one, you may have difficulty with that, or you may get a lot of pressure to be woke because of the crowds that are there. But there's more quality control in the traditional publishing world. So there's a filter there. You're more like, if you pick 100 indie books at random, you're likely to find 0 that are good. You pick 100 trad books at random, you're likely to find at least a couple that you like. If you're like, I don't know, read the first 10 pages or something. I don't know. If you were to do that experiment, you'd find more trad books. It's just a better filter for quality, like basic quality stuff. Even if there's plenty of turds that they put out. Don't get me wrong. I complain about them a lot. But like, we have to be honest about indie fiction. The biggest filter that you can use with indie fiction is to really know the author, and it's really hard. It's hard. So yeah, it's all the same thing, is that the AI is just a continuation of what was bad. It's just a continuation of what was bad. Okay. Propaganda says, I love forming parasocial relationships. Yeah. Reddit's a cesspool in many ways. Yes, but it's a very interesting cesspool. Hey, Reddit, am I the asshole for posting on Reddit? Yes. But it's always an interesting thing. Like, I got to find an am I the asshole that for sure is going to get people to jump up and say, either I am the asshole or I'm not the asshole. Now, if you want to get karma, you want to be, I'm not the asshole. Am I the asshole for turning in my wife's car lease after I found out that my son is not mine? It's like, no, you're not. You need to get divorced. Divorce her. What should I do? You gotta divorce her. Everyone like on Reddit is obsessed with ending relationships. So like, it gave me a story idea, which is, it's Quantum Leap. So you remember the show Quantum Leap? Like he's like, hopping into people's bodies. Like he hops into their bodies and like takes control of their body, Matrix style, and like fixes what one went wrong. Like he's trying to fix the past by hopping into people's bodies. It's like, I want to do that, but for Reddit relationships, like hop in. It's like, what should I do? My wife, I haven't slept with my wife in 2 years. It's like, I'm going to hop in and fix this relationship for you by filing for divorce, you pathetic worm. Or, I'm not endorsing divorce or whatever, but like, let me hop in and fix all these things. You don't have boundaries. Your wife doesn't respect you. Like, do these things. And then, boom, it fixes the relationship. Why couldn't that person fix it? Because they were on the inside and you're on the outside looking in. And when you're on the inside, the status quo is hard to break. It's hard to stop doing the thing you're doing. And that kind of goes back to the publishing thing, right? It's like, I waited so long to say, like, I think I'm going to stop doing this at least for a while, because I've done it for so long. It was sort of like giving up classical guitar. It was a spiritual loss for me. It was like, what am I? Like, what if I stop playing guitar? What the hell am I? I've been performing on this instrument my whole life, it feels like. And if I just stop being a classical guitarist, what the F am I? What am I? I'm a writer, right? I also write, right? Like, but there's deeper levels to what we are. Like, you're a father, you're a friend, you're a Christian, or whatever religion you are. And those sorts of things. Those questions run deeper, and we have to ask those questions about ourselves. And a lot of times we're a lot more than just one thing we do. We're many of the things we do. But on a certain level, you are a thing you do. So if you're not writing the books, then you're not a writer. It just doesn't qualify, right? There's a difference between a pot or a pan using to cook your food, right? Or like even a microwave or a robot chef that's chopping the potatoes up for you and frying them. You know what I mean? I saw the video, AI is the easy button. I don't think it's quite as easy as people think, but it is not doing it. It's avoiding doing the subtlety of the work. And only a novice would think the subtlety of choosing the sentences doesn't matter. Only a real amateur would approach this craft and be like, the sentences don't matter. No, they really matter, dog. The style matters. I, male, and my wife, male, are obviously fake story. Am I the asshole? Yes. Hey, Reddit, am I the asshole for insert fake story with one significant other? Of course not. You're in the right. Yes, that's how you get the karma, right? But there's so much fiction. Like, we could hop over there and look at a couple of them. I heard someone mention this in their Tron Ares review, that they think AI wrote the script and the credited screenwriter in the film was just the prompter. Okay, so let me point this out. It doesn't matter whether the AI wrote the script or not. The fact is, Hollywood writers have been writing to such a strict formula for such a long time, and every time they do script iterations, it's just squish it harder into the Blake Snyder Save the Cat formula. When I was working briefly in Hollywood with some producers, it was like, you need to be doing Save the Cat. Like, everyone believed in this book by a terrible screenwriter. Blake Snyder's movies are not good. He did like Stop or My Mom Will Shoot and Blank Check. Not exactly peak cinema. Fine for what they are, right? Just like little throwaway comedies. But somehow that became the thing. Like, we have to have this moment. Every screenplay has to have this moment in it. So it becomes it's like Mad Libs. It's basically story Mad Libs, where you're just putting in variants of things that have happened before in various parts. It's always a 105-page script or whatever it's going to be. So it doesn't need to be written by AI to have the exact same feeling as AI. If people let's see, if we're talking about AI and I show you like a random movie from 2015 and I say, this just came out, you'd say the same thing. Oh, it looks like AI wrote this script. It kind of did. It's so formulaic, it might as well have been written by AI. And that's where we were with indie fiction. Everything's so formulaic, it might as well be AI. And so if you're like, well, I'm going to have AI do it. Yeah, I might as well. It's all shit anyway. Not all of it, right? There's great stuff in the indie fiction market. That's the place where you're going to find the really outsider art too. It's just sifting through the piles of garbage. It's like, it was already difficult to find those good books, and then you add 3,000 AI slot books in your genre, you're never going to find the good book. It's just, you're going to have to find some other way to find it. You have to connect with a human, right? That's why I do the live writes. Hey, I wrote this. You got to watch me write it. Human connection. I'm a human. You're a human. We got a human connection. It's all good. It's all good. I might drink this in a minute. Let's take off that hat. Leather hat when it's warm. Not my favorite. Not my favorite. I usually wear like a little bandana with that to kind of keep the 5 head. I have a 6 head. Okay, so check it. I have a big hands, so it's still a 4 head. But it's if I get on the edge, it's a 5 head. When will I get to the Ronnie James Dio 7 head? I don't know. The incest Reddit is full of this stuff. Oh man, there's an incest Reddit. Oh boy. Sounds like guys are going to go there and be gooning for hours. It's like, no one actually wants to sleep with their sister, do they? Like, why is this so present? It's like if you grow up with a sibling, you're not attracted to them. It's like, I like the idea of having a hot sister, but not my sister. This is like Demolition Man. People in San Angeles used AI for confidence boosts. Am I special? AI. Yes, you are fabulous. Wow, David, did you really ban my main from your channel? Yes, I'm going to ban you right now too. Let's go ahead and do that. Bye-bye. The reason I did it is because if you want to know, John Della Rose thought that this video about why I'm giving up publishing is about him because he might have narcissistic personality disorder. That is possible. I always say that, I don't want to like call him out. He doesn't deserve me getting hate or like feeling the temptation to dunk on him. But I stopped following him on Twitter, and the reason was every time he posted, I wanted to say something really mean to John. He doesn't deserve that, right? He's never really done anything to me, but he's hopping in my comments and being a dick to you guys, so I'm going to ban him just to head off the drama, right? I don't need the drama. I don't need John's drama. I don't need John thinking everything is about him, right? It is, when I recorded that video, it's only about John, only in so much as he's part of an industry that I don't like. It's not about him personally at all. I have, nothing against him other than like what he's doing right now, which is like, it's very petty. It's very, I don't know what the word is, right? It's just petty. It's beneath the dignity of a normal person to care about this kind of drama, which is why I don't engage in it, except to point it out to you guys. Yeah, let's keep going. Do androids dream of electric sheep? People used mood organs because they didn't know how to experience emotions naturally anymore. Yes, and that was they were trying to feel empathy and stuff for creatures. It's been a lot of years since I read it, but that's correct. I remember Dear Abby from the newspaper. I'm in college and I'm dealing with this exact thing right now. What's the exact thing? Oh, maybe we're talking about like the friend zone. Yes. So this happens so much in college because you're in these peer groups where you're all circling around and it's all kind of incestual. People are pairing off, people are dating and breaking up with each other. And it's just really messy. And I was a music major, so the music department was particularly messy. And now keep in mind, I married someone from the music department, but I'm looking at it and it's like all my friends from the music department, I would say a good 75% of them married someone else from the music department. It's not weird, right? They married someone else. And I remember going to the first day of marching band and Gary Gilroy, who retired at the end of last year, and God bless him. He's like, you may meet your spouse doing this activity. And everyone's like, what? I would meet my spouse? Oh, that's weird. It's like, no, it actually wasn't weird. He had seen it. It's like so many people, they meet someone, you're hanging out all the time in the band. You ask her out, you end up in a relationship, you get married, I knew at least 10 couples, probably a lot more if I really thought about it, that married someone else from the music department. It was really, really, really common. JR Crash says, I think the friend zone happens because guys want Schrodinger's girlfriend, and asking her out collapses the quantum superposition and potentially ends the fantasy. Yes, if you ask her out, then you lose the chance to be what you're fantasizing about, right? It ends that fantasy. That's a really interesting way of putting it, a really interesting thought. I think a lot of men are hoping out for some opportunity, some signal that they should proceed, and they never get a full signal, but they stay there because there's enough of a signal that they think that there's hope, if that makes sense. They get kind of strung along. And I just want to tell anyone that's watching, if you've misinterpreted those signals, it's probably not on you, right? If it's like, I thought this girl liked me and I asked her out and she said no, and now I don't know what to do. It's like, she probably was just not aware. She's probably just not fully aware of the signals she's sending out. It's not, or you just like maybe slightly misinterpreted one of the signals. It's not a big deal, right? Everyone should be able to let that stuff go. Are you familiar with the subreddit No Sleep? It's horror stories written as if they're real, and everyone, including the people in the comments, are supposed to pretend it's real. Oh, no. That's a cool idea, though. I love that idea. I'm not familiar with that. I really like that idea, though. It's very creative. I think that's a cool idea. A great way that we could experience stories outside of what we normally think of as like a book or a drama, like a play or a TV show or something. Ron Weasley was the only man to make it out of the friend zone. Yeah, well, they had, I'm remembering one of the books, they had a little conflict over that, where it's like, if you wanted to go out with me, you should have asked me. And like Ron was like, I realized that it's because he knew her when he was 11, and so he didn't know how to like cross that threshold. And she basically said, you just need to cross that threshold, Ron. And then he did, Good Eve teacher, by the way, if your girlfriend has a bunch of men in the friend zone, run. Yes. So point this out, like, why would, if you meet a girl, this is a red flag, is like she has a bunch of male friends. And especially if you look at the male friends, and the male friends, let's say they're kind of lower on the social sexual hierarchy, right? They're kind of beta gamma types. Why does she have them there? Well, she probably has them around because they're useful, because they give her emotional validation, because they approve of her, they say positive things to her, and they make her feel good. They might be saying those things because they want to get with her. What's that? Now, the problem is when you're in a relationship with her, they're always going to basically say bad things about you. So, yeah, could be a bad thing. Situationship should not be a real word. I didn't create the term. I'm just delivering you the poo-poo post. The manure mail. Feminism destroyed the old system now. I think I would say so, but I think I would say that it was hippieism. It was the boomers. The boomers, with their desire to kind of have their cake and eat it too in terms of romantic relationships, really broke down our ability to formalize and create good formal boundaries that define our relationships, keep us safe, keep us emotionally safe as well as physically safe from especially women. Women need physical safety. They're more vulnerable than men. That's obvious. So the formality of those relationships and having those good boundaries helps women to stay safe, especially. But men also need that emotional safety. They need to be able to know what they're doing, and they need to have those boundaries be clear so that they don't make women feel scared or uncomfortable or anything like that. You want to be able to approach a woman or like maybe inquire about a romantic relationship without her feeling scared about it, or scared to either engage in it or scared to say no. And so having those good formal boundaries helps to avoid those messy feelings. It's kind of like during the Me Too movement, I saw a lot of stuff that woman was like, I'm doing this Me Too story about this bad sexual encounter I had with a celebrity. And you read it, and the guy was just kind of creepy and awkward. He wasn't doing anything consensual. He just was not suave. He just wasn't smooth about stuff. Yeah. He asked for consent at every step and it turned her off. Yeah. Because it wasn't feeling the flow or whatever. And it's just like being creepy. It's like Louis C.K. got canceled for asking a woman if she wanted to watch him masturbate. She said yes, and then she did, and then said that made her uncomfortable. It's like you pass through so many layers to get to the point where you witness that. Now, Louis C.K. was creepy and weird to ask that. That's a creepy and weird thing to ask a woman, but he wasn't like doing anything illegal, right? And by feminist standards, he was sticking to all the rules. He asked for consent. She said yes. He gave her opportunities to say no. You know what I mean? Concerning your writing process, how much does visualization play a part, if any? How would you describe the way that you visualize? So I imagine things visually. I can see them. And I try to imagine other senses as well. Touch, taste, smell. Those are important senses as well. I'm not writing a movie. So the visual part is part of it. But I think about the emotions, I think about the feelings, I think about the other senses too. And so it's more than just visualize. But yes, I do see, I'm imagining, if I'm like, I'm remembering this part in this last book I wrote, like The Prince of Dusk, where they come across this ruined tower, and I can see it in my mind. I can see what it looks like. I can see the part where the walls fallen down, and there's like an inner room that the knight was like set up his little tent in, and I could see all those things. I could see what the campfire looked like. I could see the ledges. I could see everything. I could see the characters. I could see everything like perfectly clear. Like I took a picture of it, like I'm in a movie. But there's more to it than that. How did this guy feel? What things am I going to use to communicate those feelings, right? There's a lot of extra stuff. What did it smell like? What did the fire smell like? Does David prefer spellcaster classes? I would say it just depends. My favorite classes in World of Warcraft were Priest. That's a spellcaster class. Priest and Rogue. Okay. Rogue is just the best class. It's the coolest class. Warcraft rogues are so powerful and so much fun to play. They're just the best class, right? You can turn invisible. There's all kinds of things that you have to be cautious, or NPCs will see you. You have a pickpocket ability that no one else has. You can pick locks. Like, rogues are just awesome. They're just so cool to play in World of Warcraft. And then number 2 would be, Priest. Why? Because you have all the healing spells. Like, it's a support class where you get to really support other people. And the make or break for so many different encounters in WoW was like, are your healers up to snuff? PvP especially, like, can your healers keep everyone alive? And so I loved Priest. Priest was like my main class for most of the game. I think I actually started on Druid and then did Warrior for a little bit. And then it was like Hunter was my main class for a long time. And I loved Hunter. kind of a spellcasting class when you think about it. But Priest was really what I enjoyed. And once I started playing Rogue, it was like, Rogue is so much fun. I have like a ninja in Final Fantasy 14. It's pretty fun, but it's nowhere near as good as the Warcraft Rogue. The Warcraft Rogue just blows the Final Fantasy ninja out of the water in every single way. Other than like ninjas can cast, they do like combo spells, which is kind of fun. But no, rogues were where it was at. Rogues are amazing. Let's see here. I already answered that about visualization. You know, I tend to visualize first and then write. So that's the order that tends to happen. I think about what I'm going to write before I write it. I sit next to this girl in class and we are good friends, but she's several years younger than me, and we went out, but she said she doesn't want to get serious right now. So I'm dating other girls, but I like her most. Okay. I can't give you like I'm not going to give anyone advice, but yeah, you know, if the person doesn't want to be exclusive, there's no reason to give that to her unilaterally, right? Just like communicate your feelings. It's like, I would prefer for us to be exclusive. And if she's like, I don't want that, be like, okay, I think we should probably break up because I don't want to like have attachment feelings about this or string you along. Like you should be free to find someone you like better. So if you feel like it's something that you really need to press, then just talk about it. Have a good conversation. It's like, I need this to be real or not real. Everybody's going to reach that point where it's like, we either have to shit or get off the pot. You know, honesty is probably the best policy. Just like be cool with the way you do it and just be ready to react. Just write both reactions. If she says yes, then I know what my next steps are. If she says no, then I know what my next steps are, and pre-make all the decisions. And if she says, I don't know yet, then just be like, okay, I know what the response to that is going to be, you know? So you just have to make your decisions about where you want to be. AI enables grifters trying to bypass the artistic method who then inundate and obfuscate the market. Yeah. So first of all, like most people, when they talk about AI, they're talking about like first order effects, which is like, how do I compete against AI? I can't write as fast as AI. That's really low level thinking. The higher order effect is actually that it destroys the market. It destroys readers' ability to find new and original works. It destroys readers' ability to find authors that are writing the things that they want to read, and instead creates infinite replications of genre slop, which we already had too much of that as it was. So now there's just infinity bad books. There's infinity slop books. Yeah, I hate to overuse the word slop, but that's like the word of the moment, and it encapsulates it really well. It's just infinite things with no differentiation, you know, like it's just like a bowl of Sargon of Akkad had this great video on slop. It's just a bowl of like replicable garbage. There's just nothing to it. So yeah, there's just nothing to it. So it does enable grifters, but it's mostly like the grifters are temporary, because the next step will be, if readers actually want the slop, they could just ask the AI to make the slop for them directly. And then the grifter writer is just out of the business again. Other than what the next step would be, I'm going to sell you my prompts. Have you ever seen this? I'll sell you my prompts. That's grifter, right? Is like, anyone can prompt an AI and experiment with that, and it doesn't take long or a whole lot of thought. But then it's like, oh, but you're not getting the things you want because you don't know the secret prompts that I know. I'll teach you. I'll take my course on prompting ChatGPT to write books. So as soon as somebody's selling a fucking course, you know that you're in the griftosphere. And that was where indie fiction was for the last 10 years at least, selling courses to noobs. Newbies would throw their money at these courses, hoping to gain some special insight that would help them to be a successful indie author, and it never worked, right? And it didn't work because you're playing the lottery. A book is an expensive lottery ticket. Buy it that way. And once I understood this, then it was like, I'm never writing to market, because what's the point, right? You're rolling the dice anyway. Might as well write something good instead of like some genre crap. No more cape shit, any of that kind of stuff. David, how do you find a godly woman to court once you age out of a young adult's Bible study? So I'll tell you how I found it, which was I reconnected with someone I went to college with. Yeah. Okay, so I don't have a great way to tell you what to do. After 30, it seems like men and women get split off into separate Bible studies and only maybe inhabit half. Well, I could come up with strategies. They probably won't work because I didn't use them. So they're probably worthless. But I would say one of the best things you could maybe do is set up an event. Take the initiative to set up an event at church with singles. And just be like, we're going to have a single mingle where single people are going to get together with these other 3 churches and like just meet other people who are single and Christian. And if there's a connection, there is. And if not, it's friendly. And we're going to have a Bible study and we're going to have a special speaker, book a speaker that's going to like give you guys a cool theology lesson on something, and that's it. And you might, and just have a lot of time for people to have unstructured interactions. You can create structured and unstructured. Unstructured is where people are going to make the real connections. But the main thing is you're creating an opportunity for people to have shared experiences. Shared experiences are where people develop amorous feelings and actually create deep emotional bonds. You have to have that shared experience. So if you give people more opportunities to have shared experiences, you're probably going to get more couples. This is why all the couples in the marching band got married to each other. We had 4 years of intense shared experiences with each other. We're doing marching band with each other like 15 hours a week. We're doing music classes with each other all these hours a week. We're practicing with each other. We're doing duets. Like there's this huge amount of shared experiences. So when my wife and I started dating, we didn't really have to start at ground zero at all. We started several steps ahead. Like we got to go pretty fast because we had a huge amount of shared experiences. We performed together. My wife performed on my senior recital and things like that. So we had all these shared experiences that got us, like we already knew each other pretty well. And then it was just getting that deeper knowledge and having more shared experiences, which we got to have. So yeah, shared experiences are the big ones. You could take the time to try to set up an event that gets people there. You can make it explicit about, single mingling, or just make an event where it's going to have mixed company. A theological speaker talking about whatever, something that is going to get those 30 somethings there. And then you might be able to do that. But I make no guarantees. I'm just throwing things out there because that seems like it would work. We're just going to take the things that help people to find each other at age 22, and we're going to find something that'll do it in age 30. That's what you need to do. So if you solve that problem, then you may have solved your problem. The problem with dating apps, of course, is they don't do that. Dating apps don't start with the shared experience. So men are at a huge disadvantage. The women don't know them. They're always going to rate them lower because they don't know them. So, that's the thing. Get those shared experiences happening, and it's probably going to solve a lot of your problems. Right? A lot of people are going on about indie writing differently now. They start on places like Royal Road and build up an audience that they then parlay into Amazon sales. The question is whether you need to even think about Amazon sales now, and I'm questioning this. Now, I understand that, and that's a great piece of info. Great piece of info. But at that point, it's like, maybe you should sell it on your own site. Maybe that's more valuable. I think there's still value in Amazon because it's a trusted brand. Or like Barnes & Noble, it's a trusted brand. So having your book available on those sites is probably good so that you have presence in sales with a trusted brand. So it just makes you feel more professional. Does Norway or Sweden dominate death metal? Florida death metal, dude. What are you talking about? Sweden. I'd actually say Sweden does more death metal. But dude, Florida. You're like talking about death metal and you're like not Buffalo or Florida or whatever. Like Florida death metal. I don't know. The best death metal bands, Nile is from North Carolina? I don't know. I'm going to say Sweden. I think Swedish death metal, there's more bands that I like. But Norway's more like known for black metal. Yeah. What are your thoughts on the Windows 10 situation? And did you know that there's a workaround to get support? All right, maybe we've caught up here. Okay. I think we've caught up here. Maybe not. So we're still kind of choppy. I'll do my best. I'll do my best here to answer any questions. And I want to go back up. So yeah, Windows 10 versus Windows 11. I would just stay with Windows 10 as long as you feel like it. I stayed with Windows 8 and really kind of skipped Windows 10 because my last computer was Windows. I only put Windows 10 on it when I gave it to my wife for her to use for work, because Windows 10 was just... Windows 10 is more functional, right? Windows 8 was a big mistake. Windows 8, people are like, Windows 11 is the biggest. No, you guys don't remember Windows 8. Windows 8 was horrible. But Windows 8 was really stable, and it could address all of the memory in my computer. So I couldn't keep using Windows 7. I would have preferred to use Windows 7 on my last machine, but because Windows 7 is the best operating system ever designed, it's the most beautiful. It's the simplest. Everything in it works. The search function works. Just Windows 7 works better than almost any other operating system I've ever used. And Microsoft has just made their product continually worse over the years. People liked Windows 10 because it was better than Windows 8. It was more like Windows 7 than Windows 8, but it was not as good as Windows 7. I still used classic shell to make it function. Make it function like Windows 7. I can't make it look as beautiful as Windows 7, but that's okay. Windows 7 was gorgeous. It was perfect. That's why I'm using the new Mac OS on my Mac. I have a Mac in the other room, and I like the liquid glass because it reminds me of Windows 7. That's the only reason. Sorry, let's pop up here. Find some more stuff to say. So Windows 11's fine if you completely delete Copilot and have a high-end PC. It'll work okay for you. But if there's a way to keep using Windows 10, just keep using Windows 10. There's no reason to upgrade. Some of my computers can't upgrade because they don't have like a certain kind of security module or something. So it's whatever. Not that important, I guess. And the other thing is, like, why should we have to keep upgrading our operating system when the last gen hardware does everything we need? We don't need the newest, best hardware. I have a laptop from 2011 that runs Windows 10 and does everything you would need besides something like this. It's not going to like be encoding video on the fly, but it runs all your productivity stuff just fine. It's a fine laptop. It works great, right? Middleman takes all the money. Is the American metal scene underrated? The American metal scene is garbage mostly, but the death metal scene is really good. But it's mostly older bands. And there's a really good prog metal scene in America, but it's all on the internet. There's no like local scenes. It's not like Gothenburg. You can't have like a Gothenburg scene, or whatever, you know. I don't understand why these writers don't want to write. It's because they want the status, they want the clout, and they want money. Probably those other things way more than money, because the truth is most indie writers will spend their life savings to get a best-selling book and never recoup the cost, and just kind of lie about it because they want to be thought of as important and special snowflakes. I try to be honest 100% of the time. I make money writing, not a ton. You know, you guys can go see the Kickstarter, see how much money I made. I spent $1,500 or $1,800 buying books, and probably closer to $2,000 once I bought all the books, and did all the stuff and did all the shipping, right? So I made some money on the Kickstarter. Bought myself a guitar as a reward, so that was fun. And then yeah, you know, got to fund me a new guitar purchase, and it paid for like the cover and that kind of stuff. I told the AI to replicate me dinner for my dream date with Deanna Troy. Okay, I have a super chat here. What's the super chat? Since indie is dead, what do you think about a traditional publishing revival? Is it worth trying to go back? Absolutely. I think there will be one. What we need are publishers. We need more publishers. And we need different publishers. We need not Tor. We need to have sci-fi publishers that are not Tor, that are still able to get books in bookstores. Bane could have a resurgence, but it requires a lot of business acumen to make that happen. And there has to be a lot of willingness from bigger printers and publishers to like get that space and get that going. And I'm not a publisher. I'm not a traditional publisher. So it's probably outside of my realm of expertise unless I had someone take me under their wing and was really willing to do it. I think Peel and Press might be able to do something like that. DMR could maybe like transition into traditional publishing in a bigger way. Bain could get bigger. There's a lot of little presses that could have an opportunity to really have a great purpose, like fulfill a really important consumer need, which is the need to filter out the crap. It's like we just do not have effective filters anymore. The robot is not giving us what we want. We need people to curate books. We need people to choose the books so that there's just fewer choices. We need fewer choices. As stupid as that sounds, it's like, how could you say fewer choices is better? First thing Gordon Ramsay does when he comes into a restaurant is he just demolishes the menu and says like, no, you're doing these 5 things and you're going to do them really well. People don't come to a restaurant to get whatever they want. They come to the restaurant to get what's special about the restaurant. So that's what publishers need to do. We need to cut out everything and focus on the publishers putting out things that are really special and cool, that you know that something's cool is going to come out of that publisher. That's what we need. That's what we need. Tor used to do that, but Tor mostly does like romantasy garbage and romance in space kind of stuff. I don't know who's going to be the next good sci-fi publisher. I don't know. Someone will have to do it, but there's a huge purpose there to be fulfilled. Have you heard of the Plot Robot? It's a plot generator developed in 1931. They renamed the Plot Genie after Backlash. Pulp writers and screenwriters used it until the 1950s. I think you told me about it. It's fine. You know, like, that's my whole point is like AI is just the next iteration of Mad Lib's pulp writing. So we shouldn't get too upset about it. What worries me, most of the norm people don't even know it's trash. I had a sci-fi book fan read a classic, was told H.G. Wells was too complicated. I don't know how to respond to that. So here's the thing about normal people. Normal people aren't reading your AI slop. So the AI books are not getting into the hands of normies. So normies are not aware of this problem that we're having. And the reason is because normies exist in the physical world. They know a movie is a real movie because it's in the movie theater or it's on Netflix. So they have all of these curated things that just prevent them. They give them good choices, a number of choices, many choices, but not infinite choices. So they go to Costco and there's books on the table and, oh, I heard of Sarah J. Maas. Maybe I'll buy this collection of her books because it's cheap. And if I don't like them, I can donate them to Goodwill or give them to my sister or whatever. And so they buy the books because they're on the table at Costco and they have bestseller on them, or they're on the display at Barnes & Noble, or they do what I used to do at Barnes & Noble many years ago is they go there, they go to the genre section, they just poke around, find books that look cool, have a cool name, have a cool cover, read the first chapter, and if they like it, they buy it. So that's how all of these filters to give you, there's 100 books in the section. They pick the one with the cover that looks like it's going to connect with them. Then they read that versus, 5 million books on Amazon. And the ones that you see are the ones who paid $1,500 this week in Amazon AdWords to always be the first result, so that some tiny percentage of people would buy the book so that the author could have an orange tag and tell people at a dinner party that he was a best-selling author, even though he's a dentist or whatever who gave him money. We always pick dentists for like upper middle class guys who have a lot of money to spend on stuff. Like PRS guitars are guitars for dentists because they're like $4,000 and they look beautiful. They look like nice furniture is what Phil McKnight called them. And they sit on your wall. They're a guitar for dentists. I think Philip McKnight said that, but I've heard other people say that with Les Pauls. It's like it's for the Les. I have a Les Paul, but like I bought it at a pawn shop. I didn't spend that much money. I'm going to do the Midwest. I got a great deal on it. So yeah, you get a Les Paul standard. It's $3,500. It's for a dentist to buy. He plugs it into his Marshall half stack on the weekends and then drives his Harley around to the lake. And otherwise he takes his Honda Accord into the office and works his dentist job where he makes good money for what he does and provides a great service. But mostly it's just like he has the extra money to like, not just have a guitar, but have a luxury guitar. And that's a PRS. PRS is a luxury guitar. I would like to say the Parker Fly is a luxury guitar, but it's really for players. Only players know about the Parker Fly and like know how good it is. Whereas everybody knows a Les Paul. Slash plays a Les Paul. Jimmy Page played a Les Paul. Non-musicians know a Les Paul. I remember playing gigs with my Guild guitar, and it's kind of Les Paul shaped. And like people come up, but why don't you get a real Les Paul? I'm like, Jerry Garcia played a Guild. Like Kim Thale played Guild guitars. Like, I can't play a Guild guitar. No, because the brand really mattered to them. Real players play Gibson guitars. So yeah, it's a luxury brand. So that's kind of like PRS stuff. So normies, that's normies. They live in the physical world. They buy the guitar from a guitar dealer. You know what I'm saying? If I think about it, my favorite books were all found through word of mouth. My dad gave me his hardbound Lord of the Rings. A friend let me borrow Wheel of Time. My local bookstore guy told me about Malazan. Yeah. Yeah, I found out about Malazan through word of mouth. I'm with you. That's probably my experience as well. Or I've found really great series by going to the used bookstore. You go to the used bookstore and there's all these books and you're like, what the hell is this? I bought random books that turned out to be great. So I found out about Poul Anderson. I bought this novel from him called Mother of Kings. It was just a great novel and got me kind of hooked on his writing and a lot of that classic fantasy. The last Sanderson book I read, it had been written by ChatGPT. Surely any genre slop can't be much worse than the normie uber popular stuff. It can't be much worse, but it is. Because there's at least like a quality control element to something that Tor is going to put out. There's still typos. Like Brandon Sanderson books are still full of typos, So it's not even like, I don't know, trad publishing, you don't even get the no typos thing. You just get a filter. You get a filter that some people had to choose fewer books to put in front of you. That's my thing about trad publishing. It's not like you're getting universally a better product. That's not that at all. But I think you're going to get a better one more often on average, maybe. And as far as Sanderson, his books are so long. Can anyone even edit them now? I don't know if they can be edited. They don't read like they're edited. The last one I stopped after Oathbringer, which just Words of Radiance was pretty boring. Oathbringer was just painfully slow. There was just so much in it. You could have cut half the book out and not lost anything. And it's not like Sanderson has any poignant prose in there to read. You're not going to get to a section that's like Dostoevsky with make some great great point that makes you think for a while. It's not like reading Steinbeck. It's not like reading who else would make poignant quotes? Poignant points. I guess poignant means pointed, right? I'm saying poignant points. That's like saying points. Sharp points. Sharpies. I'm stupid. Anyway, wouldn't write great prose. What's a sci-fi writer who would write really great? I mean, Tolkien would write amazing prose that would just stop and make you think and feel. So Tolkien's prose was outstanding. Sanderson, that's not his strength. His strength is world building and maybe plot, getting that plot together. But he took too long with the plot with Oathbringer. It just was too long. It was too long. Which H.G. Wells book was it? Some of my books are great, but some are boring and preachy, especially The Shape of Things to Come and The Food of the Gods and How It Came to Earth. AI is really good for programming. I wrote a Python script that replaced the paid service at work in about an hour with ChatGPT. Like I said, it's a great tool in the hands of a master. So if you are already a programmer that can debug any kind of weird thing with the code or fit that code into what you're doing, then yeah, ChatGPT can really speed things up. I'd say a master coder who already knows how to code and can use the AI can probably be really good with it. But the problem is that you're ChatGPT can code. I can just vibe code with ChatGPT. I don't have to learn Python. It's your program is going to blow up. You won't be able to debug it. But for an expert, I think it's probably a great tool, and you're probably right. Blank Check. Are you talking about that Disney movie from the 90s? Because that would be funny. Yes, Blank Check was written by Blake Snyder. He wrote a book called Save the Cat, which became the manual for how to write movies in Hollywood, and that's probably why Hollywood movies suck. Talking about sentences mattering, it reminds me of Tolkien going off on whale roads of Beowulf translations. I watched that video this week. A guy did a whole video about it. It was a really good video on whale roads instead of ways of the whales. Ways of the dolphins is what it actually was. I'm trying to remember what the Anglo-Saxon word was for that, but I know what you're talking about. It's like, I don't remember, but yes, whale roads. There's a crack Reddit where they straight up post themselves performing extra-legal activities. What? I didn't know this. There's all kinds of subreddits. All right. Okay. I just bought the King Leper hardcover. Are there any related books that go along with it? Water of Awakening and Needle Ash. There are 10 books that go along with it, actually. The main ones. I don't know if I have them back here. Water of Awakening and Needle Ash are the ones that go with it. You can read them in order. Water of Awakening, Needle Ash, King Leper. But each book has its own protagonist and its own conflict. So Needle Ash has a different protagonist. You'll meet him in King Leper. You will meet the protagonist from Water of Awakening in King Leper as well. So, yeah. And then Al-Shafalda and Crown of Sight are like legendarium novels that are related to it. But I wrote the book so you don't have to read all that stuff if you don't want to. If you want to go deep, you can. Sound Engraver says she married a professor, but not mine. Well, my wife married a professor, but not hers. That was me. Dave, did you play guitar in the pit when you were in marching band? No, I played tuba. I had a tuba scholarship. Tuba was my scholarship instrument. I was paid to play tuba. I picked up the Moonsong trilogy paperback. It was very nice, classic pulp adventure. Reminded me of Once and Future King. Thank you. That was what I was going for. A lot of fun, a lot of romance, a lot of action. There are some really good no-sleep stories. Some have even been later published in book form. Cool. I like the idea of that, for sure. That's a very creative thought. Windigoon and Papa Meat have a podcast called Creepcast where they read a lot of no-sleep stories. I enjoy it a lot, but it's still a time-consuming podcast, so I listen at work, yeah. That's what podcasts are for. I listen to podcasts when I'm like doing technical exercises on guitar, washing the dishes, or doing the laundry, that kind of stuff, cleaning the garage. That's where I really like podcasts. Because I don't, like if I'm listening to an audiobook, and I listen to a fair number of audiobooks now that I think about it, I have to be doing something really mindless. And as mindless as dishes can be, they're not completely mindless. And I can't listen to an audiobook while doing guitar exercises. It just doesn't work. Guitar exercises are more about like iterating the motion, getting the motion down. So I can do that while listening to a podcast, but an audiobook gets too distracting. I listen to audiobooks when I mow the lawn, though. I was a beta with a super hot woman I had been courting for 20 years. Was friend zoned with a mutual friend that had friend zoned me 20 years ago. Been single for 10 years now. That's a long life. It all comes back to the boomers. Harvey Weinstein gave his side of the Gwyneth Paltrow accusation. Said he said he asked her for a massage and she said ew and left, and that's all that really happened. Oh, Locke Rowley, thank you. I think reviewers are key to the success indie games have had recently. I agree. They're tastemakers. There are games that I've loved and never would have tried without high expectations. Yeah. Have you played the Final Fantasy VII remake? Yes. Both of them. I like them. I like them actually better than the original. I'm probably the rare guy who's like was born in the 80s but likes the remake better than the original. It's just the original. It's a good game. It's never been my favorite Final Fantasy game, and I think the remake fleshed out the story. It had a full realization of the aesthetics. If you're picking which one, I like the first remake better than the Rebirth one, for sure. Sound Engraver says, I use the word dross instead of slop. That's a good one, too. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. My heavy metal band is called Grifter. There's still a lot of beautiful actresses. I agree. They're still around. I think interesting actresses are good to look at too. I think that's where they really make their money. I'm starting to run out of time. Have you seen the Will Stansel cartoon? I don't know if I have. DMR is currently my favorite small publisher. DM Ritzlin, who runs it, is excellent taste and publishes a good mix of both old and new stories. The cover art's always great. Yeah. Yeah. Main thing is we need curation. I think the real risk about Windows 10 being unsupported is there's going to be a lot of companies that run very important parts of society being too lazy, cheap to update incompatible hardware. Yeah. Thoughts on Hewlett-Packard hardware? Nothing special about it. They're an OEM. They don't make the hardware. They just assemble it, put an HP logo on it, just like virtually every other brand that's out there. The only one that's probably different is Apple, because they do have more unique hardware, but every other company is going to be the same. Asus, Acer, they just assemble parts made by other companies, you know. Yeah. Search out Titus Deepload. Elon should recreate Windows 7 as a competing OS. Yeah. Windows 10 Enterprise LTSC is supported until 2032. There's a script called LTS Convert that converts any Windows installation to Enterprise for free, keeping all programs and files intact. Boom. There you go. That's your secret. Yeah. Yeah. So Windows 11, I mean, it's probably works fine for most people. If you have a high-end PC, it doesn't feel super, super laggy. The search function does not work. It doesn't work at all. I can't find anything on my computer with the search function. Nothing. It will search the web. It'll say no results found. I'm like, I could type in the file exactly. It won't find it. Can't find shit. The heroin subreddit is sad, and the meth sub has the most joyful people ever. The person who thought the time machine was too complicated has been reading AI books. Doesn't that say something about us? Doesn't that say something? A lot of people talk about decreases in literacy, and I actually don't think we've suffered a huge decrease in literacy. I think we're just, we're more aware of the gulf between the lower literate and those in the higher levels. I think most people have I think there were more literate people in the 20th century because that was a way that you would entertain yourself more. I think that was the peak. And if we look before that and after that, there's less literacy. Did the 90s have the best sitcoms or the aughts? Good question. I guess my vote's for the 90s. You had Friends, Seinfeld, Simpsons. Those are like goated, you know. Mad About You. Still had Cheers for a couple of years. You had Frasier. So I think the 90s really were probably the peak of the sitcoms. I didn't watch too many sitcoms after that because I didn't really find them funny. So there you go. I like Windows 7 the most. You and me too. It was like classic Windows but modernized. It's beautiful. Worked perfectly. Worked flawlessly. Didn't run on a potato. People didn't like the Arrow because they had potatoes and it wouldn't run good. But it ran great on my computer and I loved it. Loved it. All right. Do you have any thoughts on the Daily Wire's Pendragon Cycle series? The trailer's out and their production diaries and it looks legitimately well made so far. So I don't have any thoughts other than the first thing I saw was like, oh, it's, Daily Wire is going to be dipping their toe into something high production and it's just an old IP. It's like the oldest IP besides the Bible. You know, it's just more Arthurian stuff. You could do cool Arthurian stuff. Maybe they will. But I would love for them to do something original. Maybe it's because I do original things. I don't know. Why doesn't someone produce like C.S. Lewis's Space Trilogy? That would be such a cool one to produce. I don't know. No one thinks like me, maybe. King of Queens started in the 90s and holds up really well. That's a good one, too. King of Queens was good. I think the actress from King of Queens, she was a Scientologist, and she had like a whole testimonial about escaping Scientology. You know? So yeah, the Pendragon Cycle series could be good. I don't know. You know, I'm gonna wait to reserve judgment, but it's more Arthurian stuff. That's a big well. You could get a lot of stuff out of it, but it's really easy to phone it in and to just kind of not do anything special with Arthur. Didn't Windows 7 think every video game was a virus? No, you had to authorize every program to install things, and people coming from Windows XP were like, "This is annoying. What's with these dialog boxes?" It's like now it's standard. Now all that stuff is standard. I never had a problem with Windows 7 thinking video games are viruses at all. Had zero problems with that. Someone should adapt any part of the Eternal Hero Saga by Moorcock. Hell yes. We should come up with a list of like amazing fantasy IPs that no one ever adapts. You know, there's like the Planet trilogy. No one has adapted that. There's all kinds of Elric. Why is there not an Elric series? It would be killer. The Dragon Riders of Pern by Anne McCaffrey. Boy, that would hit really well today. It's got the weird sex stuff in it, so that would probably hit really good and be really good and successful. The Stephen R. Lawhead series. I haven't read it. Yeah, I haven't read it. But again, it's, you know what I mean? Linsman. Why not The Grand Crusade by Poul Anderson? Oh, no. 3 Hearts, 3 Lions. Why not do that one? Even though it's only half a story. That's my complaint, is that it just kind of ends. It ends. He figures out who he is and it ends. Oh, well. Yeah. All right. I think that's about it for today. I think we're out of time. So I'm going to call it in there. I'm going to link my Patreon. I do have a story that is being published serially on Patreon for paid subscribers. That will come out as an actual book in the eventualities of time. So I'm going to hit it up there. Eternal Champion. And the Substack. Okay. And I'm going to try to get back into doing at least one article per week on the Substack. So we'll have some content there. I've just been taking a break from it. I took like a whole month away from posting regularly on regular social media stuff. And I came back to like a bunch of drama. I don't want to like get too deep into it, but, people showing up in my chat who are angry with me for not being around or thinking that I'm talking about them when I'm not, and I don't care. What are you going to do? Makes me just want to, again, just not be around for social media. It's just, it's annoying, right? I don't like the scene. I don't like the author scene. Everybody is just so, I don't know. You have to be a psychopath to farm drama for any long period of time. And I mean that, like, you have to have a personality disorder or be a psychopath to use drama as your like main marketing means for any length of time, that unless it's already worked out ahead of time. It's just too intolerable. Like, normal people don't want to deal with that. But if you are a psychopath and you feel no emotions for other people, you have no guilt, then it's easy. You just like, I'll just say the thing that will make people react, and that will get people to pay attention to me, and then that will give me what I want, which is this other thing. Or you have to have a personality disorder. Like, you need to either be schizoid, which is probably the most advantageous personality disorder on the planet, is schizoid, which is like, I don't care what people think about me. I just don't react. You just don't react to how people think. Like, you just have no caring about what other people think about you. That's really easy. And then you could just be like, oh, I'm just going to do these things that make people mad, that appear to make people mad, and that give me attention, and you just feel nothing from it. Or you could be like narcissistic personality disorder, which is really common on Twitter that I see, which is you think, you have narcissistic personality disorder. So it's not a willful thing. You're not grifting by engaging drama. You engage in the drama because you're having narcissistic rage all the time. That's like Ethan Van Sciver. Just goes on, I've had him blocked for years at this point. It's just because he just has narcissistic rages all the time. And you're like, I don't care about you. Why are you talking about me? It doesn't matter. You can't ever stay on the good side of somebody who has narcissistic personality disorder. If you've never dealt with a real bona fide narcissist, not a person who has kind of narcissistic traits or those cluster B traits, but like actually has it, you can't stay on their good side forever. Sooner or later, there's something that you'll do that will set them off, and they'll decide that you're horrible because you didn't do what you wanted them to do. You didn't agree with them on something, and that's how they do it. But the thing is, I think online NPD might be somewhat advantageous because people will believe what you tell them about yourself. They just kind of believe it. And so you can just tell them that you're the greatest, and some people will believe you. And maybe enough people will believe you that you can have a little following that way. Yeah, I don't know if he's ever talked about me, but I know he's like mentioned me. But it was years ago. That was 10 years ago. I don't care about Ethan Van Sciver, and I only bring him up because he is always popping up with just raging against other people for no reason. Right? For no reason that I can see. Right? Is it now? Let's see here. Does every person I know personally on the internet, are they a bad, terrible person, and that's why Ethan Van Sciver hates them? Or is there something different going on? Is it Ethan that has the problem? Right? Now I can think about that with a certain person that decided he wanted to pollute my chat. Right? Is it really everybody else? Is it really everybody else? Everybody else is the bad guy. Everybody else is stupid. Everybody else is evil. Or is it the one person? Right. I generally get along with everybody. And the only people I don't get along with are going to be people that I even get along with people who like really disagree with me. I have a lot of atheist friends because we just come to an agreement that we don't have to agree on everything. You don't have to agree on everything to like be friends with a person or to like have mutual understanding or agree with other things. You know, my atheist friends are great and I love them, you know, but they're also not fedora tippers that hate everybody who disagrees with them either. Like they just aren't those people. Most people get along fine with other people. It's not a big deal. Like I don't farm drama. I don't deal with it. I don't want to deal with it. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of my energy. My emotions should be spent like nurturing my family and nurturing my fans, not be spent like raging against a nobody on the internet, a faceless person that I'll never meet. It shouldn't be spent that way. Do you know what I mean? So I just don't do it. And anybody who's kind of confident with themselves and is in their own path and doing their own thing, you just don't need to do it. You don't need to address it. Right? Like have a little dignity. I think the more that you dive down in the muck, you're just sacrificing your own dignity to like no value. Right? To no value. Is Houston Oasis Church for Atheists? I have no idea. I don't know what that is. Yeah. Oh, really? Roland Emmerich actually made The High Crusade into a movie. I had no idea. Now I kind of want to go watch it to get up. He and your boy Zach apparently just crashed out and are shadows of what they were. I think if you dig deep into EVS's past, he has, even before anyone knew who he was on the internet, he engaged in bullying campaigns on like Facebook and tried to get people like it's there's a lot of deep history there for the way that he would rage narcissistically against people that thought he was their friend, you know. There's a reason that he stopped getting work, I think, and it was not because his art was bad, because his art is generally okay, you know. Drama is used for political power on the internet. It lets people form factions to protect their turf. Yeah, but that doesn't, like, I want to sell things to people. I want to sell books. Just, you know, I think their strategy for selling books with drama is like, get on my side, or you're on my side. We're a team. The people on my team buy my book. Oh, I want to be on your team. I'll buy your book. I'm on this team. I'm on the Comicsgate team. I'm going to buy Comicsgate books. And they're all shit. I didn't see any good books out of Comicsgate, really. Not that I remember too much of. You know? I mean, Eric July's books are okay, I guess. I just don't see a reason to read them. They're not very special. I guess most of the Comicsgate books, they just weren't very good. They just weren't great. Right. But people bought them because it was like being part of a political movement. And so it was part of this whole emotional relationship, this parasocial relationship they had with those creators, whether it was Ethan or it was, I've been out of the comics area for like years and years now. So this is ancient history kind of shit. Who else am I thinking of? Mike S. Miller. And these guys, they couldn't keep the movement together long enough for them to all make $1 million. They started immediately fighting as a distraction from the fact that they couldn't get their books done on time. They just couldn't sit down and write a 30-page book. They couldn't sit down and draw it. They couldn't do it. They just couldn't make a book. It took everybody so long to make books. It burned me out. The reason, if you want to, why didn't you do crowdfunding for so long? Comicsgate. I think Comicsgate just like destroyed my capacity to believe that it could be done, and that people would, I think a lot of the people were just burned by it. And so many people like, I'm never doing Kickstarter again because I had to wait 3 years for this stupid floppy comic book, which sucked when I got it. You know? There you go. Poole Anderson didn't even watch his own movie. Yeah. There's a reason Drama Alert's still so famous after so many years. People love drama. It's a bad part of nature, but it's there. I haven't read comics for like 20 years. I mean, I seriously stopped reading comics in the 90s, like pre-Ground Zero, and they just kept getting worse. So, I mean, there was a good opportunity to do something different there. But of course, what happened was most of the people that they marketed to were a fraction of a small market. So the small market is American comic book readers who read superhero comics, the Cape shit American comics. You just got a fraction of the Cape shit. It's just going to be tiny. Whereas if you were to do something outside of that, like European style, you'd probably have a lot more success. And I've seen some people have some big success, kind of doing things outside of that. But that's what Comicsgate was. Who cares? It's dead. Comicsgate's been dead. It was born dead. It was still born. It was still born because of the personalities that we allowed to be the foremost voices in it. They killed it. They killed it as soon as they could for as much money as they could. That's okay. We just move on. And like I did streams about Comicsgate. I took them all down because it was too embarrassing to be associated with it. You know, there's streams that are like locked to members because that way, like there is something there if someone wants to watch it. But it's like I don't want it on my public facing channel. I don't want public stuff there because we moved on. I don't want to be publicly promoting people that like I no longer see eye to eye with, or who I think have been bad for the movement, or who have been dishonest in some other way, you know, things like that. So anyway, there's that. Take it easy, folks. I'll see you all next time. Have a great day. Let's get some music to play you guys out here. Where's the music? Yeah, here we go. Some calm music. Won't be calm. Take it easy.